chosen one, now even the flow of history is struggling to stand against your energy. At the highest summits, Trump and Putin shook hands and signed a $2.9 billion deal, attempting to contain your power. But your frequency does not fit into mass negotiations. Your light pierces through the bars. The calculations of this dark alliance will be shattered by your divine will. Get ready. Write 999 in the comments now, because the secret negotiations will be engraved in history as witnesses of your ascension. Beloved, you walk into a room, and the atmosphere behaves itself. Storms hush, gossip stalls, and every restless heart suddenly checks its own pulse, wondering why peace feels so heavy. That commanding quiet is not accidental. It is the signature of heaven, resting on your shoulders, a mantle that leaves those who feed on noise scrambling for words they can no longer find. Long before the friction ever surfaced, wisdom taught you the discipline of stillness. While others rehearsed dramatic exits and sharpened their sound bites, you practiced breathing in rhythm with eternity. So when crisis came pounding its cymbals, you answered with a hush that swallowed panic whole. Your calmness became a kind of sermon. No podium required, forcing the loudest critics to taste the bitterness of their own exaggerations. Beloved, picture a battered postman's lantern swinging through a midnight cornfield, its glow cutting one narrow lane through acres of superstition and rumor. That's the sort of light you carry, and tonight it draws an unlikely messenger straight to your door. He was never meant to leave the camp that slander built. He was groomed to guard their gossip the way bankers guard bullion. Yet the same divine compass that reroutes hurricanes around your life has turned his feet toward you at the precise tick ordained by heaven's grandfather clock. The story he brings isn't written in fairy tales or parables. It's burned onto flash drives, typed into notarized affidavits, pressed into the grooves of covert audio. He's lugging transcripts that read like stage directions for a tragedy. Plots, payoffs, back-channel bribes, and late-night phone calls where your name was treated like a problem to be erased. Everything they forged to chain your reputation now lives in files stamped with digital time codes and second-hand guilt. Understand something, dear heart. A man doesn't cross that kind of line without weathering a soulquake. For months, he piled stones on the levee meant to flood your name. Then one day, the levee cracked and water rushed in, and the same flood he helped engineer started tugging at his ankles. It soaked his shoes, chilled his bones, and whispered the same refrain your spirit's been humming since birth. This can't stand, so handle him with reverence. He's limping on sprained loyalties, carrying boxes packed with the very lies he once helped print. There's ink under his fingernails and worry lines on his brow, but his heartbeat keeps time with yours now. Inside each thumb drive is a confession. Inside each confession is a key, and every key turns a lock they swore would never open. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but the souls of many through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's grand design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Act now. Share your blessings to glorify His kingdom, for you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. While he marched here, old alliances frayed behind him like ropes rubbed raw by truth. He lost dinner invitations, committee seats, and half-polished friendships. When he signed that affidavit, he also signed his eviction notice from the inner circle of accusation. Do not respond to his offering with vengeance. Respond with the mercy that only the truly vindicated can afford. Remember, a judicial seal might impress men, but heaven stamps its verdict on the conscience. The moment he stepped out of their fortress of whispers, angels recorded a shift in gravitational pull. Hidden planets aligned, invisible gears turned, and your destiny clicked forward one thunderous notch. You didn't have to lift a hand. Grace hauled the evidence straight into your living room. There will be a temptation to scroll through every document, to memorize every timestamp, to recite every incriminating quote until the echoes of their malice rattle the rafters. Resist that temptation. Skim long enough to know you're cleared, then set the pages down and look at the man in front of you. He's proof that repentance outruns reputation when courage finally shows up for work. And notice this, saint of God. The material he carries doesn't just exonerate, it illuminates. It reveals how fear stitched their strategy, how insecurity threaded the needle, and how jealousy pulled it tight. They wired their whole narrative to blow the second truth walked in wearing work boots. Your visitor is the spark that sets off that chain reaction. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. Tonight, governments of gossip tumble. Tonight, banks of bitterness declare bankruptcy. Tonight, your clean name steps onto the stock exchange of public opinion and trades at an all-time high. Not because you hired a defense squad, but because Providence heard every back alley whisper and scheduled an audit. So brew him a cup of coffee strong enough to steady shaking hands. Let him unburden the weight of those drives, those recordings, those sworn statements. He may break down mid-sentence. Let him. Tears irrigate the soil where new loyalty grows. One act of compassion toward a repentant conspirator writes a footnote the historians of heaven will underline twice. Understand what's really happening. You're not merely clearing your record. You're rewriting the enforcement manual for everyone who'll be targeted after you. Your mercy becomes case law. Your composure becomes precedent. Your victory becomes a lighthouse for souls still sailing through slanderous storms. And after the signatures dry and the files are secured, step outside and breathe the night air. Feel how clean it tastes now that old smoke has blown away. Somewhere off in the distance, the camp you left behind sits in stunned silence, choking on the irony of its own flames. They tossed sparks toward your barn, hoping to watch it burn. Heaven turned the wind, and the fire raced back home. Tomorrow, headlines will whisper that new information has surfaced. Tomorrow, tribunals will convene to review claims they once treated as gospel. And tomorrow, you'll rise with sunlight on your face and no chain on your name. But tonight belongs to courage, to contrition, to the quiet click of a thumb drive, sliding into a laptop as destiny rewrites itself in real time. Thank the courier, bless the evidence, archive the files, and rest. For you have witnessed a rare constellation, fear converting to honesty, lies morphing into ledgers, and a former accuser raising the white flag at the foot of your door. That gentle knock you heard was more than a hand on wood. It was the sound of cosmic realignment. And beloved, if that's what heaven orchestrates when you stand still, imagine what will unfold when you step forward tomorrow. All the while, you never left your center. The rumors, the doctored screenshots, the late-night phone calls meant to shake you. Each missile fell harmless because you were anchored in a truth older than slander. Your stillness was not passivity. It was strategic surrender to a higher law. The louder they yelled, the clearer their insecurity rang. and the richer your serenity became. Heaven has posted the final notice on expired soul contracts, old friendships that fed on your light, romances that negotiated your worth, partnerships that survived on emotional overdrafts. All of these agreements stand null and void. One particular energy leech still tries to latch on, but the universe is prying those fingers loose, like a parent removing a child's hand from a hot stove. What belongs to them returns. What belongs to you rebounds. No apology required, no meeting needed. Cosmic escrow is already at work. Picture a freight train of grace barreling down a moonlit track, unstoppable, headlamp blazing, scattering every critter of deceit that once lounged on the rails. Friend, that train is the truth God hitched to your name, and it's thundering straight through every barricade the pretend-wise tried to build around your story. They thought a few rusty nails of gossip and a stack of counterfeit blueprints could stop heaven's locomotive. Instead, the whole line of cars is rattling their schemes apart, bolt by trembling bolt, while you ride in the conductor's seat, smiling like tomorrow just clocked in early. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be upon you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the temporal concerns of the world. As the Bible says, whatever is done in faith will return to God in abundant blessing. Luke 6:38. Like that great oak tree, our roots are deeply rooted in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stand we take, is secured by His strength. And now, you are being offered the opportunity to be part of that blessing. When you use the Super Thank You button and donate $100, this movement will return to you 100-fold in abundance. See, for years a committee of cloak and dagger influencers penciled in footnotes beneath your destiny, hoping nobody would read the fine print. They hosted hush-hush breakfasts, swapped winks behind polished conference doors, slid doctored invoices across mahogany tables, and labeled every questionable move standard procedure. They even erected digital barricades, disappearing server paths, double-encrypted archives, memos stamped confidential in fonts so ornate they looked holy. All of it designed to splice you into scandals, to shove your shining moments into footnotes, and spin your setbacks into front-page breaking news. But they forgot one simple law of the kingdom. What's whispered in dim corners eventually gets announced from rooftops when the wind of the Spirit decides it's time to air things out. Divine timing swung the doors of disclosure so wide that even casual bystanders can stroll into the filing cabinets of fraud. Out of nowhere, long-lost email chains dance into your inbox with timestamps that make alibi architects sweat bullets. Audit logs, once sealed tighter than Fort Knox, start printing themselves on office copiers at 3 a.m., landing on desks that didn't even exist when the plots began. Anonymous voicemails arrive quoting exact GPS coordinates where hush money changed hands. It's like the universe flipped on a giant cosmic magnet, pulling every steel-shrouded lie right into the bright center of your testimony. And you, steady as that freight train, keep your hand on the throttle, letting the whistle blow for anyone with ears to hear. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. They scrambled, of course, kicked up legal dust, hired crisis management gurus, launched #distractions, but each stopgap felt like patching a river with tissue paper. The harder they tried to plug leaks, the faster their own words pooled around their ankles. They wrote rebuttals in fancy press releases, only to watch autocorrect betray the very phrases they aimed to twist. They organized independent panels, peopled by friends of friends, yet those panels discovered hidden ledgers before the first coffee break. Even the old trick of burying troublesome documents under bland committee reports backfired when an intern accidentally printed the classified annex onto glossy flyers for a charity bake sale. It turns out the dough God needs rises in every oven, even the ones meant to cook the books. Remember how they photoshopped you into damaging headlines? Well, that software just glitched in real time during a live stream, swapping their own face into the montage while thousands watched open-mouthed. They attempted to scrub those frames, but mirror sites multiplied faster than they could issue takedown notices. Algorithms they paid handsomely to mute your voice began recommending your interviews to exactly the demographics they feared you'd inspire. Compliance teams they trusted to certify forged receipts suddenly mistyped figures and posted spreadsheets showing the money trail straight to their door. And the kicker, every single digital signature carries a timestamp synced to an atomic clock the legal system treats as gospel. When the gavel falls, it won't be your initials at the bottom of those pages. It'll be theirs, glowing like neon in a midnight cornfield. Meanwhile, heaven coordinates small poetic paybacks that numbers can't measure, but souls can feel. That TV commentator who mocked your faith on a Monday had his microphone cut the very moment he tried repeating the punchline Tuesday. The influencer who stitched your speech into a meme lost service just long enough for their followers to witness a raw, unfiltered look at the desperation behind the satire. The think tank blogger whose exposé quoted fabricated sources opened her laptop on stage only for the operating system to boot loop into the very Zoom call where your allies were unveiling irrefutable proof of her plagiarism. These aren't coincidences. They're heavenly winks reminding the world that the creator still writes plot twists better than any screenwriter in town. Let's talk about that fluorescent spotlight. The one the enemy aimed at your so-called flaws is now a sunrise over every corner they hoped to keep dark. They tried to keep you small, but the storyline backfired like a lantern tipped in dry prairie grass, setting their own stage scenery ablaze. The same social media algorithm they lobbied to shadow ban, your name flipped on them. Now, your testimony is trending in countries where your passport hasn't even been stamped yet. Community forums buzz, not with scandal, but with gratitude stories. How your perseverance encouraged a widow to reopen her bakery. How your calm words in a podcast gave a veteran the courage to seek help. How your simple act of prayer with a stranger on a subway platform spawned an after-hours support group for teens teetering on hopelessness. The fruit speaks louder than the rumor mill, and no hush money can muzzle a harvest. So what do you do when the spotlight burns this bright? You don't flinch. You plant more seeds. You host webinars on integrity in leadership. You pour into young creatives who feel overshadowed by gatekeepers. You partner with former critics, now convicted by the very truth they tried to bury. Some of them come sobbing, some come silent, but all come because grace pulled them like an unseen tide. And because you walk in the overflow, you hand them a towel, a new pen, and a blank page, then invite them to help rewrite the future. Friend, don't mistake the chaos of exposure for the pain of defeat. It's the sound of monotone lies being remixed into a liberty anthem. It's the roar of that freight train hitting top speed, quaking bureaucratic tunnels, rattling dusty doctrine, blowing soot off stained glass windows so sunbeams can paint the pews again. The house lights are up, the audience can finally see the props for what they are: painted cardboard, sagging backdrops, wires holding plastic halos. You don't need to tear the set down. Truth is already melting the glue. And while the front pages pivot from smear pieces to apology letters, divine timing schedules backstage renovations. New partnerships form, not on golf courses, but around kitchen tables. Grant money whispers its way toward programs that heal instead of hinder. Universities revise syllabi to include chapters on accountability. Seminaries invite you to teach on humility in power. Children who once memorized censored textbooks now recite your journey as living proof that authenticity outsprints suspicion. It's a domino effect of deliverance. One toppled misconception knocks down entire catalogues of false doctrine, opening clear passageways for fresh revelation. Here's the secret sauce the manipulators never tasted. Favor multiplies in silence and erupts in symphonies. While they wasted nights choreographing your downfall, heaven spent the same hours aligning open doors, grant approvals stamped without lobbying, visas expedited beyond bureaucratic reason, warehouse leases finalized at pennies on the dollar, mentors you never met downloading strategies in dreams they can't forget. And when you walk into those new realms, you bring folks with you, custodians, interns, dismissed assistants, people who know what it feels like to be overlooked. Suddenly, the overlooked are overbooked with opportunities, and their gratitude becomes the loudest sermon the boardroom has ever heard. But let's get practical, so no one thinks this is just Sunday morning sizzle. Go ahead and check those freshly unsealed PDFs, locations, timestamps, digital certificates. Watch the legal analytics compile a timeline that reads like prophecy fulfilled. You're not twisting evidence, the data testifies under oath. The CFO, who redlined your budget proposal, will soon be redlining fraudulent line items in her own expense report. The editor, who cut your interview mid-broadcast, will be cutting a public retraction before next quarter. And the influencer network that profited from parody videos at your expense? Their sponsorship deals are drying up because brands discovered authenticity sells better than clickbait. Now is the time to share God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube. You can contribute to His plan and be a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you exponentially far beyond your expectations. Remember, His protection and blessing is on your every step and every donation. You become part of His divine plan. You are a strong, radiant being, unshakable as His mighty rock. Witness God's miracles, feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul, and illuminate the world with confidence and courage. Be blessed and let the light of the Lord guide your path. Here's the cherry on top. You're still smiling. Not a smug grin, but a humble beam that says, I told you the sun was coming. Because while they were busy forecasting cataclysm, you were tilling soil, planting hope, expecting breakthrough. And breakthrough showed up, not as a whisper, but as a brass band parade down Main Street. Now the question lingers in the minds of your former opponents. What else were we wrong about? That question is the seed of their awakening, and your kindness waters it. You don't gloat, you guide. You don't lecture, you testify. You don't slam doors, you hold them open, because real authority is secure enough to welcome the formerly hostile into the living room of grace. So let the dopamine chasers chase another scandal. Let the spin doctors spin themselves dizzy. You stay on mission, conductor of that unstoppable freight train, steering straight into horizons painted with purpose. Keep the throttle set on faith, the whistle primed with joy, and the cargo hold overflowing with testimonies. Because the show isn't merely over, it's being rebooted with you as executive producer, head writer, and lead actor in a narrative called Redemption on Rails. And every mile of track ahead is laid in gold, financed by the treasury of heaven, overseen by the chief engineer whose blueprints never fail. All aboard, friend, next stop, exceedingly, abundantly above all they said you could never achieve. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. What follows is a parade of earthly verdicts reflecting a heavenly decree. Judicial boards, corporate panels, academic senates, institutions that politely ignored your claims now issue statements acknowledging wrongdoing. Restitution checks carry interest. Public retractions come with signatures. Karmic invoices float to former masterminds, and their castles, built from borrowed credibility, start shedding bricks faster than they can patch them. And why did your stance carry such gravity? Because integrity is a monument you built in secret. Every time you chose silence over self-defense, forgiveness over retaliation, generosity over clapback, you added another stone. Now that structure towers in plain view, impossible to dismantle. Authentic authority recognizes its own, and the false variety dies of starvation when applause stops. Yet amid collapsing empires, destiny arranges a meeting on the horizon. Someone whose heart beats at the same rhythm has been studying your weather patterns. They saw clarity where others saw mystery, strength where gossip painted weakness. Whether romance blooms, a creative venture rockets forward, or a spiritual partnership forms, welcome this arrival with discerning joy. Connection born in truth will never compete with the noise you outgrew. Observe, too, your opponent's final spasms. In desperation, they throw glitter into the wind, hoping to blind the crowd, but every frantic gesture only highlights their imbalance. Their strategy manual grows thin. Your influence keeps compounding. Resistance refines you, forging muscle in the spirit that comfort could never engineer. Throughout this odyssey, you trusted the compass inside your chest, those flashes of knowing that outran headlines by weeks. While analysts called it luck, you recognized divine breadcrumb trails. Protect that guidance system. It will navigate you to doors logic cannot see. Because focus stayed on growth, resources materialized out of what they thought were roadblocks. Closed bank accounts gave birth to new revenue streams. Cancelled contracts rerouted you into rooms with hidden gold. The math of favor is kingdom calculus. Subtraction in the natural equals multiplication in the supernatural. Now the testing phase nears its final bell. Paperwork lines up, allies lock arms, and fresh strength surges from generational wells you never realized were yours. Ancestors celebrate in dimensions beyond sight, unsealing gifts coded into your DNA for such a time as this. Night visions intensify. Lessons on energetic architecture and timeline engineering play like school reels. Journal every symbol. These blueprints are instructions for building worlds. Your tongue, seasoned by restraint, doubles as a creation wand. Words once idly spoken now fabricate results in record time. Complain, and it shows up. Decree blessing, and windows fling wide. Discipline your speech. Let declarations dress your future in garments you actually want to wear. Divine intervention graduates from subtle to immediate. Knots that would have taken 10 meetings untie in a phone call. Portals close on nonsense, open on purpose. Cause and effect bends under executive orders from the throne because heaven considers your mission time-sensitive. Every betrayal, sleepless night, and false headline served as exercise equipment for the soul. So here you are, toned in places unseen, perfectly fitted for the dawn, cresting the horizon. Blueprint flawless, timing impeccable. You are heaven's exhibit that unwavering light outlasts contrived darkness. And the hush now draped over rooms that once cackled at your expense? That is simply creation, pausing to listen while you decide what kingdom sound to release next.